Hi, welcome back to the second part of changing and updating this plein air sketch. What we're going to do right now is brighten the sky. The gray clouds are more or less what I wanted the effect to be, but the sky was a lot sunnier, a lot more brightness in the sky, and it's a little too monochrome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by lightening it down near the horizon. Most times when you see a sky, if you look at it, it's lighter towards the horizon, getting darker and richer as it goes higher into the sky. This doesn't happen all the time, but it happens most of the time. And if you want your painting to look properly, to read proper, it's best to follow this, even if Mother Nature isn't happen to be cooperating, because sometimes it will be darker towards the edge. Try to avoid doing that in your painting just because it confuses the viewer. And generally, we don't want to confuse our viewers. So what I've got here is a mixture of the Hansa Yellow Medium and a lot of titanium white, and a little bit of burnt umber to dull the yellow. A lot of my students ask me, why do I paint the sky and things like water last? It's because they're not the main subject, at least not in this painting. And the main subject should drive your painting. So if you paint the sky or the water first, it's taking on a precedence. Whatever you do to it, everything else has to live with. So it makes sense to do the most important thing first, your focal point first, because your focal point is what everything else should live with. You don't have the star of a movie playing to catch up to the bit players. And so the same with the painting. You want your focal point to rule. Now that I've got the lower horizon painted in brighter and lighter, I'm going to shift over to start painting the upper part. Now I'm going to paint it a deeper color, a little richer, a little darker, so that the eye is brought up into the sky the way it would naturally be. So what I've done is I've added a bit more yellow and a bit more burnt umber to darken this down so that it looks like it's naturally related to the color below. I'm not trying to color the whole thing in one even block of color. I'm using vertical strokes and putting them in not quite randomly, but not in rigid lines either. I want the sky to be complex, but at the same time simple, because I don't want the eye being pulled off to the sky, even though it's a strong element. I want the eye to go down to the rocks and then to the trees. And the sky should be supporting all that. So there's our sky pretty well done. Now water really is reflective of the sky. This could be, I could paint it blue, but it wouldn't make sense with a bright yellow sky. To have blue water just wouldn't work. So the water really has to reflect that sky. So the water I'll be doing in a yellow, similar to what we have in the sky, but darker. Because in most cases, things that are reflected in the water are reflected darker. So once I've mixed up an appropriate yellow, then I start putting it in. Again, just like with the sky, I'm tapping the color in. I'm not drawing lines, but with my little vertical strokes, they're all in a line, so they tend to form sort of subconscious lines. They're not very clear lines, but they give the impression of lines. And the reason I'm doing that is because I'm trying to give a sense of the shimmer. Because this wasn't flat water, this was rippled water, and the rippled water was catching the brightness of the sky. That's why this is the bright yellow. And so by doing it in rows, there is a small sense of ripple. It's a little hard to see in a video of it, but in the real painting you can see the horizontal ripples. If I simply just painted it with strokes going left and right, it would be very obvious, and it wouldn't look, it would just look like I painted stripes. This way I'm getting away from looking like painting stripes. There's a number of different ways to do water, and this is one of them. Not all of them work for all situations. This one is working for this situation. I could have tried another one of the techniques, but I felt this would work. And I'm carrying the yellow right back into this, almost up to the shoreline. This helps break that dark area up and helps the audience understand that it's water there. It's not some sort of land. Now these other dark areas, they're all in the right spot, but they're a little too dark. They're sort of like black holes. So I'm going to mix up a slightly lighter color and put in there, just so that the dark areas, which were actually still areas, are reminiscent of the sky being reflected in them. I think in the video you can see that these are lighter than the original color that was there. That works better. Now, originally I was going to leave these blue rocks blue because they seem to be okay, but once I put in the other colors, which are much brighter, the blue suddenly seems to be like an emptiness. So I'm going to brighten them up because they were bright. They were quite bright out on the edge, and so I want them to continue having that brightness. But I did like the blue sense. So I mixed up some of the blue with some red to dull it down, and I'm putting it in the darks, the midtones, the lights, just to give these rocks some shape. Well, that's about it. For me, it's an improvement, and it's got the brightness and the warmth that I saw when I was there that day. Some people might find my style a little garish, but that's the way I see nature. I see the brightness down in it. When you compare it to the original was flat, was dull. There was no sense of it being a bright, warm, sunny day. But then as I brightened things up, you really got the feeling of that sunny day. Thanks for watching.